morning out there, everybody. And welcome to the Off Base Podcast. The podcast, big yawn! The podcast carefully crafted to remind you to suck on a fat one if you think you're the only one, because you're not. I'm your host. I'm the Rocky Mountain no-name Jackass. And it's 28 degrees in the city of Aurora at 7:59 a.m. on Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022. Shut up. All right, I believe we're ready to go. Let's get the show on the road, motherfucker. Here we go, motherfucker. Yeah, buddy. So, yeah. Here we are. This has been a chilly, but very pretty morning out here today. Overcast skies, but there is no threat of precipitation, which in Colorado means snow. Fucking snow. So, yeah, $4 a gallon for gas. That can suck a fat one. That really can. Goddamn inflation. Everybody thinks the president can control gas prices. It's like, are you kidding me? It's the market, buddy. It's supply and demand. The president can't control gas prices any more than he can control the price of a candy bar. Do people need gas? Is there a shortage of gas? There you go. So, the current spike in the gas prices came about with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, because for some reason folks thought that that was going to disrupt, I don't want to say oil production, but let's just, for the lack of a better term, say oil production coming out of Russia, which would reduce supply, which then would drive up the price. So that's one of the contributing factors to the high price of gasoline, is the spike in oil. You know, back in 2008, oil topped out at $147 a barrel, and then proceeded to collapse down to the low 20s, I think, or maybe even the low 30s. But what an epic drop. And you know, during the coronavirus crisis, when it first hit, well, actually it wasn't when it first hit, it was when all of the shutdowns started to come into play, particularly for airlines. So the big drop happened in February and March, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't until April, maybe even June. I'll have to take a look at a chart, when oil went negative. People were paying other people to take the oil off their hands because it was going to cost more to hold on to it and store it rather than to just give it to somebody else. Fascinating how the markets work. So oil was negative approximately a year and a half ago, and now barrel of oil is, what did I see it was? It's over 100. I think it's close to 110. Topped out last week, I think, or maybe the week before, at 130 something. Needless to say, it's approaching its 2008 high again. The commodity complex is roaring right now. That was like, you know, last year. Well, no, it wasn't last year. I think it was last year. Yeah, last year about this time, when lumber prices were fucking going nuts. Because of two things. One, the shortage of lumber, and two, people wanting to buy homes outside of New York City. And all the other major metropolises, not metropoli, not just New York City. I don't know what the fuck's got me talking about the markets today. But my lady friend will be returning. Speaking of New York City, my lady friend will be returning from New York City tonight with stepson in tow. He played at Carnegie Hall last night. So they're coming back. Flight gets in at about 8:20 Mountain Time, which would be 10:20 for all you folks on the East Coast, and 7:20 for those of you in the Pacific region. So, yeah. Taxes. I got to get to work on the taxes again. They're due April 15th. Now, normally, ever since my wife and I have been married, we have filed for the extension, and then I end up doing them sometime in August and September. But this year, we can't do that because we're going to owe taxes. Oh, that was the second big yawn. We can't do that this year because we're going to owe due to the fact that my wife sold her Alabama house of over 15 years. I think she held on to it. Just missed the deadline for the tax break, which, I talked about on a previous podcast, so I don't want to rehash that. I had an issue going on at work, and I don't know how much I can get into the details of it, because it would probably take longer to explain than to actually get to the point. But people are babies. They are babies. Now, I don't want you to get me wrong. I quite enjoy my job. I think our product is freaking phenomenal. And for the most part, the people that I work with are really good. The shop. But what I was trying to do for the past 6 months was improve our product. And I had a task, really long-range task to complete that I did back in late February. And I was informing people as best I could along the way of what we're doing. And now that it's done, now the complaints start rolling in. But they're not warranted. They really aren't. It's just the fact that, how can I put this simply? Simply put, everything that I did to our content the content is still intact. It just got moved. And the bitching and moaning that goes on when shit gets moved cracks me up, because all we're doing is clicking mice. That's all it is. Instead of clicking here, you click here. It's like, what the fuck? What kind of moaning and groaning bullshit is this? Now, I've done projects like this every year that I've worked for the company, except the coronavirus year, because we didn't have time for extraneous projects. We just had to focus on our clients the whole time. And every year, I get this bullshit argument, bitching and moaning, and every year I have not had support from my managerial staff, whoever was my manager at the time. Now I do. So I had an email that went around yesterday where the bitching and moaning was happening, and I reacted quickly, and harshly, but I tried to be as diplomatic as possible. But then, you know what? By the time the afternoon hit, I replied back to everybody. I said, look, this probably isn't the forum for me to have this discussion. And I didn't say this in the email, but my thought was, you know what? I got my manager and his manager above him wanting me to do this project. So, you know what? Take it up with them. I didn't say that. But that was basically my hidden message by shutting down the conversation. I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm not going to get in a fight with you people over where stuff got moved. And it's like, take it up with the higher up. So I'm actually feeling pretty good about the fact that I've got good managers right now who are going to defend my work. Because that's the other thing too. is I spend 4 to 6 months on a project, carefully, thoughtfully planning it out. And then in one fell swoop, after the fact, now I'm getting complaints rolling in. And it's like, you know what? Fuck off. You know, I've made me feel highly underappreciated for my efforts. And yeah, it's so funny because in the business world, if if you go to a business meeting like that and you say that to somebody, you say, you know what, fuck off. It's not good. But you know what? It should be. You should be allowed to express yourself. Well, I don't know. There is a decorum that you gotta have. But that's certainly what you want to say on the inside. You know what? Fuck off. Or as Bill Burr would say, you know what? Go fuck yourself. Oh, it'd be so fun to say in a meeting. If I had $5-10 million in the bank, I would say that. But I don't. So I got to be diplomat. It's a funny thing about our diplomats, our congressional members. They get paid what? $300,000-$400,000 a year to take the amount of shit that they take, and they end up raising, somewhere in the tens of millions to get the job. Why would you go through all that? Well, because on the other end, you're going to be doing speeches for, $100,000 a whack. That's your kickback for pushing through all of the legislation that the lobbyists want to get pushed through. So what's funny to me is that our politicians, they have the cushion. They have the $1 million in the bank. They have 4 houses. It's like, you know what, you guys, you are in the position to say, you know what, go fuck yourself to the lobbyists. You're in that position, and you don't do it. Because the lobbyists will probably bust out the pictures they got of you naked with 4 9-year-old girls. Fucking assholes. But you know what? As angry as one can get at how the people in power abuse their power, is as much as we have to focus on living within the system that they have created for us. And you know what? Let's stick on economics here for a second, because for the longest time, if you listen to sensible, really common sense money managers who post a ton of shit on YouTube, one in particular that I really, really like listening to is Peter Schiff. If you listen to guys like Peter Schiff or George Gammon for that matter, George isn't a money manager, but he's commonsensical, very entertaining, very charismatic as well. Peter Schiff, if you don't like him, he'll just get under your skin. He'll just get under your skin and just annoy you. And when I first started watching him, that's what he did to me. But then the more that I listened to what he actually had to say, I was like, wait a minute, this guy's making fucking great sense. So for the longest time, I'm thinking that our monetary system is going to collapse because of how much our government is abusing the dollar. But then I started listening to some other guys like Brett Johnson. Is it Brent or Brett? I think it's Brent. Brent Johnson. He runs a Santiago Capital, as well as Steve Van Meter. These are 2 guys that have a really, really strong case for the global economy coming to its knees, not because the dollar is going to tank, but because the dollar is going to skyrocket. And that's typically what has happened in, I don't want to say third world countries, but I can't think of a better term. Third world countries that have gotten into some serious, serious trouble is because the dollar spikes compared to their currency and ends up wiping them out. So their argument for the dollar spiking just continued to make more and more sense to me. And I also think that in the long run, Peter Schiff is going to be right, in that the dollar will collapse eventually. If you look at the value of a dollar compared to an ounce of gold since, I think, the early 1900s, I mean, we've lost over 95% of our purchasing power in the dollar because of how much it's been inflated. The currency's been inflated, particularly after 1971 when Nixon took us off the gold standard. But the dollar spike is very interesting. The dollar spike theory wreaking havoc on the global economy, because the dollar isn't just, it really, and you know, I'm not going to speak out of my ass, but I'm going to try my best to speak intelligently about what I've heard and know about the current system. Because I am certainly ignorant in a ton of aspects of the current system. So the dollar obviously is our method or mode of currency, but it also is for a lot of people around the world. Like if you want to borrow money from the United States and you live in a foreign country, you want to borrow from the U.S. to start up some kind of project over there, well, you're going to borrow in dollars. So, I mean, we have a certain amount of dollars floating around our system, but then when you expand it to the global economy, it's like 4 to 5 times as much, maybe even more. It's crazy how many dollars are actually out there. So, in times of stress, well, people want to make sure that they have their dollars, and that's why you saw recently with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, you saw not the dollar going to all-time highs, but you saw a pretty significant move. Currency moves are usually typically pretty slight. Dollar went from, I think, 92 up to 99 during that 1 to 3 month period, starting at the beginning of the year, and that is a big move for a currency. So if things continue to spiral, the Federal Reserve is continuing to raise interest rates. You could see the dollar go to 120. The dollar index is what I'm referring to, not the dollar against one specific currency, but the dollar index, which is the dollar measured against a basket of different currencies. And that's one of the main reasons why a lot of people are playing around and exploring cryptocurrencies. It's because they want to get away from the dollar, particularly the Chinese digital yuan. Oh, I just thought of something. I got to get a new mailbox key. I did have it on my keychain here, but it was attached to like this little Minecraft keychain that kept kind of coming loose. Well, it came loose enough that it fell off of my keychain proper, and now I can't find it, so I gotta go get another one today. All right, here we go, getting scanned, people. Well, good morning.
Hello.
Hi.
Very good. How's it
Thank
going?
you. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Economics again. I do love the topic of economics, but I just got so jaded by it because of what happened in the 2008 financial crisis. It was in 2007. August of 2007 is, maybe even July. July 2007 is when I started to trade my own money. And, you have guys like Jim Cramer saying, you need to get in the game. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to do your homework, research your companies. Well, yeah, I was living in Virginia at the time. And then the financial crisis hit. I'm researching my companies. Went and sat in on a lecture that the president of Wachovia was giving at the University of Virginia. And I was like, oh, this sounds great. I ended up buying Wachovia stock. And what did Wachovia do? It went out of business. So it's like, what kind of fucking homework are we doing here? It's I don't want to say it's a rigged game. It's just one that I didn't understand fully. I don't know. I don't want to end the podcast like this. Get me depressed thinking about mistakes I've made. Although, as Batman would say, or Batman's father, why do we fall, Bruce? So we can learn to pick ourselves back up, right, people? That's right. I think that's a better one to end on. Actually, a beautiful view of Denver in the foreground, the mountains in the background today. Very, very nice. Seeing a lot of detail on the mountain, even though the skies are overcast. Able to see quite a bit. So, let me wish everybody a great Tuesday out there. And, yeah, if you made some mistakes, let's learn from them. Let's turn this ship around, you know? Don't be as stubborn as the Rocky Mountain no-name Jackass over here. Find a way to be flexible with things. Accept losses. Move on. All right? All right. I'll smell you tomorrow.